Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's OnBoard Limited Release webinar for payers, pharmacy benefit managers, and medical review organizations. Today, I'll begin with a condensed OnBoard Limited Release overview. And just a side note, we provided a full walkthrough of OnBoard Limited Release during previous webinars, so if you'd like to check out a recording of one of these past sessions, we'll be sharing resources at the end of today's presentation. Next, I'll be sharing information on how to register and access the new system and stepping through the various user roles in OnBoard Limited Release, including how payers can assign these roles for the handling of prior authorization requests, or PARs, so you'll be ready to roll for the launch of the new system this summer. We recently updated the Payer Frequently Asked Questions document on the OnBoard webpage, so I'll be reviewing some of these questions and answers today. And I'll wrap things up by letting you know what's coming up next in the project timeline and leave plenty of time to answer your questions. This multi-year project initially began in the summer of 2019. We identified opportunities to implement some early process improvements and functionality sooner in what we are referring to as OnBoard Limited Release. And will include a new online process for prior authorization requests, or PARs, as well as the online submission of Form HP 1.0. In January of 2022, Phase 2 will be available, which includes eClaims EDI 3.1. When use of limited release begins, paper form MG1, MG2, and C4 auth will be eliminated. To transition away from paper forms, limited release will move the prior authorization request process completely online and will include the following. The existing MG1 process will be known as confirmation in the new system and will be confirmation that the treatment the provider wishes to deliver is consistent with the medical treatment guidelines. MTG variance requests will replace the attending doctor's request for approval of variance and carrier's response, Form MG2. The special services PAR includes the 12 medical treatment guideline related requests previously done using C4 auth. The non-MTG over $1,000 PAR will be used for non-MTG treatments costing more than $1,000. There will also be a PAR for non-MTG treatment costing $1,000 or less. OnBoard Limited Release will also include medication PARs, as OnBoard Limited Release will be replacing the current drug formulary prior authorization request process. And just to note that medical marijuana requests will now be done via a medication PAR in the system. Part of OnBoard Limited Release will be the introduction of a durable medical equipment, or DME, fee schedule. Certain types of DME will require prior authorization. And similar to the current drug formulary prior authorization process, all completed PAR submissions will be transferred to the case folder in eCase for viewing. I'll start by providing an overview of the process that the provider will go through to submit a PAR, so you can be aware of how this process works from start to finish. First and foremost, all users will need to register for the medical portal to access OnBoard Limited Release if they don't already have an account. We'll walk through the details of this process in just a few slides. To submit a PAR, a provider would log into the medical portal to access their OnBoard Limited Release dashboard. This dashboard serves as a home page in the OnBoard system, where users can sort the information by column to view the status of PAR submissions in progress and submit new PARs. To submit a PAR, healthcare providers or their delegated staff will select Submit an e-form at the top of the dashboard. The first step will be to conduct a case lookup and then continue to enter the requested information. The system will automatically detect the type of PAR a provider is attempting to submit based on the information being provided, such as CPT code, MTG site, body part information, and whether the requested treatment is consistent with the medical treatment guidelines. Reference documents can also be attached, such as medical records or progress notes. There will also be the ability to add additional PARs on a single submission. For example, a provider may want to submit PAR requests for lumbar fusion, post-surgery physical therapy, and a back brace, which can all be added and requested via a single submission. The only exception is for medication PARs, which will need to be submitted as individual separate PARs for each medication being requested. The PAR is then submitted to the insurer. Insurers will begin their response to PAR submissions by clicking on the PAR ID link for a specific PAR shown in their dashboard. In this example, the PAR selected was for durable medical equipment, and a series of items is shown regarding the PAR, including the body part, the associated medical treatment guideline, HCPCS code, and the Level 1 insurer response. The insurer will place in their response, and in this example, they will grant and answer the series of questions shown. The insurer provides details denoting whether the claim is apportioned, the amount or percentage covered, the insurer name, and the title of the reviewer, and continue the submission. If this PAR was denied or granted in part, it would escalate to a Level 2 review. And a quick reminder of who Level 1 and Level 2 reviewers are. A Level 1 reviewer can be anyone designated by the insurer, and a Level 2 reviewer must be the insurer's physician, being a licensed MD or DO. The next step for an insurer would be to upload any supporting documentation needed, such as clinical studies or other medical treatment guidelines, before reviewing and submitting a response to the PAR. To end our system recap, let's navigate the review process for a submitted prior authorization request. First, the provider will submit their prior authorization request in OnBoard limited release. The PAR will begin with the insurer's Level 1 review, and the insurer's Level 1 reviewer will either grant in part, or deny. If it's granted, it will go back to the provider for treatment or prescription to the injured worker. If the Level 1 reviewer grants in part or denies the PAR, it will be automatically escalated to a Level 2 reviewer, and the Level 2 reviewer will grant in part, or deny. If the Level 2 reviewer grants, it will go back to the provider for treatment or prescription for the injured worker. If the Level 2 reviewer denies or grants in part the PAR, it will navigate to the Level 3 review by the board's medical director's office to grant in part, or deny. The Level 3 review will go back to the provider, whether it was granted in part, or denied. Medication requests are an exception to the auto-escalation process for the other PAR types. If a medication request is denied at the Level 1 review, it will go back to the provider, and the provider will have to submit a request for a Level 2 review. Now that you're familiar with how OnBoard limited release will work on a high level, let's review what you need to know to get access to OnBoard limited release, an early step you can do today and prep for the system being available this summer. Who already has access to OnBoard limited release? Let's start with the payers. For claim administrators, meaning insurer, self-insured entities, or third-party administrators, access to OnBoard limited release is granted using organizational profiles based on eClaim's trading partner information, similar to the drug formulary administration used today. The online user administrator for the medical portal will automatically be granted access to receive PAR notification emails, add PAR workload administrators, add PAR Level 1 and Level 2 reviewers, and add additional user administrators. This can be done using the Medical Portal Administrator login page on the board's website. Existing Medical Portal users will continue to use their same ny.gov ID and password. Now let's move on to the medical review organizations. A payer may designate a medical review organization to review their PARs. Medical review organizations must first complete the online medical review organization medical portal registration process found on the board's website. And lastly, pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. PBMs may be designated by the payer to review Level 1 medication PARs. The PBM must complete the online PBM medical portal registration process on the board's website before a payer can designate them as a reviewer. PBMs with access to the current drug formulary application will automatically be given access to OnBoard limited release and will not need to submit a new request for access. Existing payer designations will also be automatically continued. To begin the registration process, go to wcb.ny.gov/medicalportal and select Access and Administration under Payers. Next, select Accessing the Medical Portal in the navigation column on the left. Select either Medical Review Organization Medical Portal Registration or PBM Medical Portal Registration at the top of this page. After selecting either of these links, the registration process will begin. To register for the medical portal, medical review organizations and pharmacy benefit managers will need to submit the following information: organization information such as federal tax identification number, organization name, and organization address. User information. As part of the registration process, organizations must identify at least one user administrator and may also designate additional user administrators, workload administrators, and reviewers. This will be detailed shortly, but information required for each user includes name, address, phone number, and email address. After a registration is submitted, it will take 3 to 5 days for the board to complete the review. Once approved, emails will be sent to each user designated in the application with their ny.gov ID, temporary password, and additional instructions related to their role. Speaking of which, OnBoard Limited Release requires payers to assign users to various roles. These roles are responsible for providing prior authorization request reviews and is very similar to the drug formulary administration process that many of you are already familiar with. First, let's define what each role is, and then we'll walk through how online or user administrators assign these roles. And just a quick note here, all of the information I'm about to share about roles is now available on the medical portal web pages that you can access by following the steps shown here. As seen in the PAR review process overview I provided earlier, there will be various roles in the system of who can request access for users, assign PARs to users who are designated for Level 1 or Level 2 review, or are designated to conduct Level 1 and Level 2 reviews on PARs for which they are assigned. The first role we will review today is the Payer Online or User Administrator. The responsibilities of the Payer Online Administrator will be to request access for users and user administrators, assign users to Workload Administrator, Level 1 and Level 2 reviewer roles, provide email contacts for PAR notifications, designate an MRO for PAR reviews, designate a PBM for Level 1 medication PAR reviews, update user information as necessary, and remove users who should no longer have access to the system. The Workload Administrator, who is created by the Payer Online Administrator, will be responsible for receiving and assigning all submitted PARs based on the assigned Workload Administrator role. There are a few types of Workload Administrator roles. The MTG, non-MTG Workload Administrators assign MTG Confirmation, MTG Variance, MTG Special Services, non-MTG over $1,000, and non-MTG under or equal $1,000 PARs to appropriate reviewers. Medication Workload Administrators assign medication PARs to appropriate reviewers. DME Workload Administrators assign DME PARs to appropriate reviewers. Workload Administrators may have more than one role, and payers should ensure that there is a Workload Administrator for all PAR types. Workload Administrators will change designated or delegated reviewers due to situations such as a delegate being absent from work or a change in a delegate's role within the organization. PBM Workload Administrators will only be able to view medication PARs. Next, we'll review the responsibilities of the Payer Level 1 and Level 2 reviewers. Level 1 reviewers are responsible for the PAR review performed by the payer or can be delegated to a medical review organization or pharmacy benefit manager for medication PARs. This role will be designated and assigned Level 1 request by the Payer Workload Administrator. There is a Level 1 reviewer role for each PAR type. Level 2 reviewers are responsible for the PAR review performed by the insurer's physician or can be delegated to a medical review organization or MRO. Please see Subchapter M of Chapter 5 of Title 12 of NYCRR Part 441.1G for the definition of the insurer's physician. This role will review Level 2 requests as designated and assigned by the Workload Administrator. and there's a Level 2 reviewer role for each PAR type. Next, we'll review the Medical Review Organization Online User Administrator role. This role will request access for users and user administrators, assign users to Workload Administrator Level 1 and Level 2 reviewer roles, update user information as necessary, and remove users who should no longer have access to the system. MROs will also have a Workload Administrator role. The Workload Administrator will receive and assign all submitted PARs, and they may change delegated reviewers due to situations such as a delegate being absent from work or a change in a delegate's role within the organization. MROs will have Level 1 reviewers. These roles will review Level 1 requests as designated and assigned by the payer's Workload Administrator. The Medical Review Organization Level 2 reviewer will review Level 2 requests as designated and assigned by the payer's Workload Administrator. Pharmacy benefit managers will have an Online User Administrator, a Workload Administrator, and a Level 1 reviewer role. The Online User Administrator will request access for users and user administrators, assign users to Workload Administrator and Level 1 reviewer roles for medication PARs, update user information as necessary, and remove users who should no longer have access to the system. The Workload Administrator will receive and assign all medication PARs and change delegated reviewers due to situations such as delegate being absent from work or a change in a delegate's role within the organization. The Level 1 reviewer will review Level 1 medication PARs as designated and assigned. Now that we've defined the roles that will be used in OnBoard Limited Release, we'll walk you through the steps to assign users to these role types and receive notifications for all PAR types. First, online user administrators will log in by visiting the medical portal page on the board's website, and in the Payer section, select the Access and Administration link. On the next page, select Online Administration, and then the Administrator Login link. You will use your existing ny.gov credentials for the medical portal to log in here. You will land on the navigation page shown here. This is where you can select each PAR role and begin entering information for notification contacts and user roles. Let's review the administration process for assigning notification contacts. Online user administrators must enter email addresses for the contacts in Level 1, Level 2, Order of the Chair, and Final Determination notifications. To show a quick example, let's select Level 1 under MTG Confirmation. Once selected, it will show a list of organizations assigned for MTG Confirmation Level 1 notifications. On this page, you can update the current email to a new email or add new contact information for MTG Confirmation Level 1. The online user administrator must also enter delegated staff for each type of PAR review. As an example, we want to see who is currently a Level 1 reviewer for non-MTG over $1,000, and then add or modify current users. After selecting Level 1 reviewers, we now see 3 sections beginning with the registered users designated for that level of review, and here's where you can remove or modify existing users. Next, you will see registered users who are not designated for Level 1 reviews. You can select Add for any of these users, and they will be added as a Level 1 reviewer for non-MTG over $1,000. And lastly, at the bottom, you will see a button to add a new user. To add a new user, you will just need to enter the required information: first and last name, address, phone number, and email address. This concludes our walkthrough of who needs to register, how to register, the various roles in the new system, and how to assign and update roles. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but don't worry. We will be sharing information on where to contact with questions after today's webinar and where to find resources related to registration at the end of today's presentation. We've been receiving a lot of great questions from the insurer community, both during these webinars and to the onboard@wcb.ny.gov mailbox. Let's go over the most frequently asked questions received so far. And just a note, we have developed documents that outline these FAQs that are available on the OnBoard section of our website under Resources. How will the feature that enables an insurer to request more information from a healthcare provider work within the system? The insurer will be able to request additional information from the healthcare provider who submitted the PAR directly within OnBoard Limited Release. The healthcare provider will receive a notification that additional information has been requested and will have the opportunity to provide more details. Please note that use of this feature does not affect the mandatory time frame for response to a PAR, and the healthcare provider is not obligated to respond. However, in some cases, this will allow an insurer to approve medically necessary treatment, which is supported by the additional information provided. Will the OnBoard system notify the insurer's claims adjuster handling a specific claim when a new PAR has been received, or will the notification be sent only to the workload administrator? PAR notifications are sent to the email address the insurer's user administrator has registered for that PAR type and level of review. Insurers are encouraged to use group emails when possible, rather than an individual user's email. For example, ABC Insurance Company may register Level 1 RX at abcinsurance.com for Level 1 medication PAR notifications. An ABC Insurance Company can provide access to that email for their various administrators and users. The PAR submission will appear on the Workload Administrator's dashboard for routing appropriately for review. Since OnBoard Limited Release is paperless, how will injured workers be notified about activity related to their claim? Healthcare providers and insurers are required to notify the injured worker of any actions taken on a prior authorization request related to their claim. The insurer is required to provide a copy of their response, and the healthcare provider must notify the injured worker. The board will continue to mail the injured worker a copy of any action that it takes. Any notification from the board will also be sent to the injured worker's attorney if they are 1. Identified as a claimant attorney on the claim in e-case, and 2. Have an email address associated with the R number. These rules apply to all PAR types except medication PARs. Will the official New York Workers' Compensation Durable Medical Equipment fee schedule indicate which items require prior authorization? An item not found on the DME fee schedule will require a prior authorization. Some items on the DME fee schedule are designated with a PA. These items require prior authorization. Can an insurer authorize DME requests through a DME supplier that an insurer currently works with? The insurer may not require the injured worker to use a specific DME supplier just because they are contracted. They may, however, approve an identical line item at a lower cost, but will be required to provide 2 vendors, including contact information, where the injured worker may obtain the comparable item at a lower cost. How would an insurer request an IME or record review in OnBoard Limited Release? An IME can be requested during either Level 1 or Level 2 review. The updated time frame for response to the PAR will be calculated from the PAR submission date, regardless of whether the IME request was made during a Level 1 or Level 2 review. Can an insurer determine whether an IME is needed during a Level 1 review, or must that determination be made by the Level 2 reviewer? Notification that an IME is required is only necessary for MTG variants and MTG special service PARs. This notification can be made by either level. If a PAR is denied or partially approved during the Level 1 review, is it automatically escalated to a Level 2 for review, or does the treating healthcare provider need to request a Level 2 review? For all PAR types except medication, if the PAR is denied or granted in part for medical reasons at the Level 1 review, it will automatically be escalated to a Level 2 review. For medication PARs, the healthcare provider will continue to be required to request a Level 2 review. If a PAR other than medication is denied for administrative reasons, it will go back to the provider and will not escalate to a Level 2 review. The injured worker or their attorney may submit a request for further action, Form RFA 1LC, to request adjudication regarding the administrative denial. If a medication PAR is denied for administrative reasons, the provider can request a Level 2 review. Will utilization review organizations access OnBoard limited release and be able to have their own workload admin? Utilization review organizations hired by a payer will be able to access OnBoard limited release directly if the payer has set them up with access. Utilization review organizations will see and be able to take action on prior authorization requests assigned by the payer's workload administrator. In other cases, the utilization review organization will work directly with the payer according to the payer's processes. What happens to in-flight drug formulary requests? When OnBoard limited release launches, any authorization obtained before the OnBoard limited release effective date will be valid, and a new authorization won't be required for something already authorized. Any new authorizations received after the OnBoard limited release effective date will need to go through the new OnBoard system. For in-flight requests, if the authorization request is submitted prior to the OnBoard limited release effective date and the time frame for response has not expired, the request will be migrated to the new system and completed in OnBoard. Can different contact email addresses be designated for each notification type? Yes, payers can associate a different email address for Level 1 versus Level 2 requests for each of the PAR types if desired. That wraps up the latest FAQs, but there are a few other updates I'd like to share related to OnBoard limited release. In addition to the DMEP schedule, as we move closer to OnBoard limited release being available, the board has made the decision to implement some other initiatives concurrent with the release of the new system this summer. The deadline for prescription drug refill compliance has been shifted to launch alongside OnBoard limited release. And as a reminder, the drug formulary as it currently stands will be replaced with the implementation of OnBoard limited release that will include the medication PAR process. The medical treatment guidelines listed here will also go into effect when the new system is available. There will be new medical treatment guidelines created and used for traumatic brain injury, and there will be revisions made to mid and low back, neck, shoulder, and knee. Training modules will be available on our website for both medical and non-medical professionals once the new and revised MTGs are implemented. The OnBoard webpage has been updated recently with content specific to the insurer audience. I'd like to walk you through where to find these resources and provide a preview on how the website will soon be redesigned to give insurers their own page to find these resources in the future. As previously mentioned, the OnBoard webpage has been updated with new resources for insurers. There is a fact sheet highlighting what insurers need to know and a listing of frequently asked questions for the insurer audience. You can also view a history of our recorded presentations and PDF copies of our slide decks as well. We encourage you to take a look at these resources and to share them with your colleagues. As we move closer to using limited release, the board will be providing plenty of opportunities to receive updates and training. We will continue regular webinar sessions like this one, and just prior to OnBoard limited release being available, we'll be delivering just-in-time training webinars to provide you with everything you need to know for day one. Guide materials and video tutorials will be developed, and website content is being continuously refreshed to assist you along the way. To stay in the loop on when training resources and other engagement opportunities are available, we urge everyone to subscribe to receive WCB notifications. If you did not receive the invitation directly to this webinar, visit wcb.ny.gov/onboard and select the Get Involved and Stay Informed tab to sign up to receive email notifications to stay informed on resources and to register for upcoming webinar and training opportunities. Last but not least, what do insurers need to do now to prepare? First, as we walk through today, you should review the new medical portal web pages and register for access. Remember, the online user administrator can now administer PAR notification emails, add PAR workload administrators, add PAR Level 1 and Level 2 reviewers, and add additional user administrators for OnBoard limited release. You should conduct a review of any current systems and procedures to identify potential impacts. After going live with OnBoard limited release, the board will no longer be using paper for PARs, so please ensure your procedures are in place for day one. Lastly, we encourage insurers to share this presentation information and registration web pages with their medical review organizations and pharmacy benefit managers to ensure all are registered and prepared for OnBoard limited release. That concludes today's presentation, but if you have any questions following this webinar, please email onboard@wcb.ny.gov. To stay updated, we encourage you to visit the OnBoard webpage frequently. This is also where you can subscribe to receive OnBoard news straight to your inbox, as I just mentioned. These communications will not only feature limited release updates, but will be distributing information about the broader OnBoard project as well. Thank you for your interest in OnBoard limited release, and have a great day.